Day number 2 at the 10th annual Rocky Mountain Classic at the Winsport Hockey House, and scouts abound everywhere as all eyes are on this incredible Elite 15 tournament. Dave Dawson here, joined again, our annual interview, I guess it is, with Ross MacLean from MacLean Hockey. Ross, pleased to have you joining us again. And what have you made so far of this event now into day 2?
Well, I mean, it's always one of the premier events in the scouting calendar. You usually get a lot of the top teams, a lot of the top players showing up here, and this year's been no exception. It's been really, really entertaining. A couple of days of games so far now, and some good competition, and a lot of players making a real good showing and name for themselves here.
We were chatting prior to the interview, and the concept of now being able to get in person and chat with a lot of these youngsters, as opposed to what we've been through in the last couple of years, is probably fairly relieving for yourself, is it not?
Absolutely. I mean, it gets back to sort of what you're trained to do, and you spend all that time. And there was a couple of years where we had to get creative, and we did a lot more Zoom interviews, we did a lot more phone interviews. It was hard to know who the parents were, and that can be a little bit challenging, especially you want to get to know the character of people, and that element is really important in the scouting game instead of just looking at the skills all the time. So it's nice to be back here. It's nice to be able to watch a kid, nice to be able to see them after a game, sit at a game and talk to them about another game. There's a lot of benefits to that aspect, and it's nice to be back to normal.
Yeah, it's nice to be back in, we enjoy providing the quality video to be able to watch those, but it's nice to be in person to do it as well. Ross, you put out your rankings, or your top 10 players from the opening day yesterday, and you obviously have an idea going in. Who are maybe a couple players that have really stuck out for you after day 1 here?
Well, there's a couple of real high-end players that are here at the event right now. Humboldt has actually got quite a few really strong players, and they're drawing a lot of scouting attention. Dane Bucher is kind of he's their captain. He's the engine that paces that machine. Just an explosive player. He can shoot, he can pass, he plays defense on the power play. He's just can do a little bit of everything. Move on to Rink Kelowna, they got a really strong team too. And then on the back end, Keaton Verhoff's probably the top defensive prospect in the draft this year. He's a monster. He's got great size already. He's a good kid, high character. Has a very, very all-around game, kind of similar to like an Aaron Ekblad type player. So it's really exciting to see a couple players like that are here leading the way. OHA Penticton has Mathis Preston, who's a very, very explosive, dynamic player, really exciting. Type of player that can put some fans in the seats that you want to pay price to watch him play, because he's a really exciting player.
We saw Mathis Preston at an event here in May, as well as Liam Ruck at a hat trick this morning as well. We can talk on and on about a number of players, which is, I'm sure, what you would love to do, and we could probably do that for 45 minutes. But a player that I know Peter Labardius and I have been chatting a little bit about, and who really has stuck out, a 13-year-old in this event in Landon DuPont. Great bloodlines as well. What's special about him?
Almost everything.
Nearly made you speechless.
Yeah,
that's a great question to ask.
It is, because your brain just starts going on about so many different things when you want to talk about this kid. But he's so smooth. He thinks the game incredibly well. He's always a step ahead. He's a kid that you watch play, and he's got a plan. He's always got a plan, whether he has the puck or whether he doesn't. He can execute on the puck really well. Just a high skill level, high hockey IQ. There's little question that he's probably going to garner some exceptional player status at some point if he continues to develop the way that he has. Great character. His dad, Mickey, is one of the great guys sort of in hockey, and those that know Mickey know just kind of what a joy he is to be around, and the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree there with the kid either. He's just a really good kid.
We're going to have an opportunity to chat with them as well, and you mentioned that exceptional status. We can chat a little bit about that, and how special that is, and how rare obviously that is to be able to have a player at this age group already nearing that category. First part of that question, and the second one, maybe I'll save that after you answer that, because it's going to be a fun one.
Sure. The thing about exceptional status players is there really needs to be a maturity level, and if they don't have that maturity level, that character, it doesn't matter what their skill level is. They're never even going to get consideration for it. So here's a kid that I think has that. Obviously has the skill level as well. I don't want to put that pressure on that kid right now to say that, because his development path has been good, and I think he's fine developing within his age group. But if it's something that he wants to do, he's certainly, you can look at him and you can say, well, this is a kid that may garner that opportunity.
Edge playing right behind us, and Landon, maybe he scored, I don't know. But, it's easy this day and age, I think back in the day, you have a really great defenseman. You use the Bobby Orr comparison and whatnot. In today's day and age, the name Cale Makar is an easy name to throw around, and I'll ask you what the comparison is at this age group. And I understand that you even coached Cale yourself, so maybe you have a bit of a different perspective on that answer.
Yeah, so I mean, the interesting thing with Cale at this age was he wasn't the top defenseman in the age group. Cale took the time to play the game that he wanted to play properly and develop at the level that was best for him. So he played AA his first year as a 13-year-old, and spent that time as the guy at AA, being the power play guy and being the puck rushing defenseman. But that level of development for him helped because he was able to consistently play the type of game that he wanted to play and then move on. So the Cale Makar that we know, Cale was always he stood out. You could always tell he was something good. But there was times where he was maybe third or fourth on the depth chart within his age group. So he really climbed, and that's what kudos to Cale and the work ethic that he had, and he's one of the most dedicated players that I ever worked with. So when you look at a player like Landon and you try to compare them, there really isn't one, because it's a very different process that Cale went through to what Landon is. Landon's much more advanced now than Cale was when Cale was this age.
Looking forward to chatting with him and his father. Ross, I want to ask you a little bit about, obviously a lot of attention in today's age group or today's hockey world goes into the prep schools and how many great players they put out. You look at Airdrie having a great start to this tournament, making the finals of the Bauer Bantam Elite. St. Albert is having a great showing as well. What does that mean to you as a scout, to be able to see the purity of hockey continually, as maybe some of those club schools feel a little bit left out when it comes to maybe the caliber of players there?
Well, I think it all comes down to coaching. And I think, there are certain programs that have done a really good job of bringing in good coaches. And I think Tyson Solosky, who coaches Airdrie, is a good young coach, and he's got a really good staff that works with him, with Mike Sorrow and Mitch Ferguson. And they've done a lot of work. They've put their time in there. They've developed those players. They've built those relationships with the families in that organization, and they have a reputation there. So kids want to go and they want to play there. And I think that pays dividends when you get a particular age group like they have. You can look at the host team here in the Northwest Flames. They have that. They have 709s on their team, 7 first-year players on their team, and their coaches have done a really, really good job of creating a culture. And the AA program in the Northwest is very strong. They could be a juggernaut at this event next year. So, and I've done work with the Northwest of Calgary for 14 years, and I've never seen an age group like the 09. So, again, I think it comes down to having good coaching programs, building a development culture, and people want to stay within the minor hockey structure. There's obviously benefits to playing in the sports school structure. You get your practices during the day, you get your evenings off. Your games are a little bit more, showcase structured and so on. But there's pluses and minuses, I think, to both, and it kind of depends on the individual as to what's the best path for them.
The host team, obviously Calgary, doing fairly well in this tournament as well. Another one of the undefeated teams. And Ross, one final question for you. Is there a player that, obviously every scout has their list. I don't want you to give away all of your list. And, I feel guilty asking that question sometimes. But maybe one of those wild card players who in this tournament maybe isn't going to draw a lot of attention, but maybe can start to develop and mature throughout the process and throughout the rest of the year.
Well, I'll talk about a couple of the Southern Alberta kids here, and behind us we've got Red Deer playing too. They've got a defenseman, Johnson, could be one of those guys. He's a very kind of tall, lanky defenseman who has that raw element to his game that could really develop into a really sort of prototypical type player at the next level. And then I'll go back to the host team, and they've got co-captains with Easton LaPlante and Owen Fulstrom, both very explosive players that can turn a lot of heads, and maybe haven't gotten the attention that they deserve so far. And an event like this really gives them that opportunity to get the spotlight shone on them.
All right, well, we'll have a chat with Owen Fulstrom later on today, from what I understand. So segues in hockey work perfectly, don't they? And in broadcast, same thing as well. Ross MacLean from MacLean Hockey. Hey, if people want to get a hold of you and find out more information, social media tags, feel free to drop those in.
Yeah, just at MacLean Hockey on Instagram and Twitter, and that's usually the best way to get me.
All right, so Edge was down 2-1 Red Deer right now, so maybe Johnson got in the scoring as well versus DuPont, a couple of lanky defensemen there. Ross, thanks so much for your time. Always enjoy catching up with you. Hopefully do this again very, very soon.
My pleasure.